The New York Knicks have been very bad this season. They are 23 and 24 and currently tied with the Washington Wizards for 10th place in the Eastern Conference, and they are not where they want to be. This team had high expectations. They had a very, very big year last year. They are one of the more marketable teams, one of the more well-known teams. They have a huge fan base, and they need to be better. And they're just not as good as they were last year. Last year they had a very nice run. They lost in the first round of the playoffs, but them making the playoffs was a huge deal. And they went out and made some moves in free agency, and they just haven't worked out. They brought in Kemba Walker, and they've been expecting to get better, and they aren't. They're not a better team. I would say they've regressed. They had a lot of expectations, and they're not that good. So what do we think the problem is? The problem is this team's not very good. His team relies on Julius Randle. Julius Randle is not a number one player. Julius Randle could be a very good number two player, but I don't think anybody is trying to win a championship with Julius Randle as your number one guy. So what are they gonna do? They gotta go out and make a trade. I think they should go out and get Bradley Beal. This guy's been talked about being traded for a while now. He's got 2 years left on his contract. The Wizards are also 23 and 24. They're tied with the Knicks. They started out a little hot. Maybe you thought they'd keep Beal for the end of the season, but they're going downhill quick. And if they trade him now, they'll lose more games, and then they'll get a better draft pick in the draft. Here's my package. To the Knicks, I'm sending Bradley Beal and Anthony Gill. I'm adding in Gill because he has a low contract and isn't worth very much. And this way, there's just less players that the Wizards are gonna have to cut. Because I'm sending 4 Knicks to Washington. I'm sending Kemba Walker because he doesn't really fit in my opinion, and he makes 8.7 million. I'm sending Evan Fournier, who's a shooting guard. He's probably the current shooting guard, and I didn't like that signing in the summer, and I don't like it now. He's not a very good defender. His $17.1 million contract, that helps a lot. Then I'm sending 2 younger players that are good for the Washington. I'm sending Quentin Grimes, who I think has been very good this year. I think he's very underrated. I like him a lot. And I'm sending Obi Tobin. I think he's good as well. I liked him coming out of the draft. I'm also sending 3 first-round picks. I'm sending a 2022 Knicks first, a 2023 Knicks first, and a 2024 Knicks first. These are all the Knicks picks, and I'm lottery protecting all of them. This way, if things don't work out for the Knicks, they're going to get their pick back. And I think that's an important part of the deal because it could not work. You could get screwed over. And if you don't have these protections, you're really going to get screwed over. You're losing 2 young talents and 2 guys that you thought were going to help your team get better and haven't. So with this trade, my starting rotation is going to be, I'm still going to have Derrick Rose starting at the 1. I'm going to have Bradley Beal at the 2. I'm going to move R.J. Barrett to the 3. I think he can run well. He's 6'6". I'm going to have Julius Randle at the 4, and I got Mitchell Robinson at the 5. I think that's a very good starting 5 right there. You got your scorer and Bradley Beal. You've got your secondary scorer and Julius Randle. Derrick Rose is a very good point guard. He knows how to make it all work. And you got your young star R.J. Barrett and Mitchell Robinson's there to grab boards, put back shots, and block shots. And with that being said, this weakens the bench a little bit, but I still got 2 really good bench players right away. Emmanuel Quickley is my 6. You got Cam Reddish potentially being the 7 role coming off the bench, and you got Nerlens Noel. So just those 8 guys, right, and you still got Alex Burks on the roster. So those 9 players, that's a very deep roster. You got 2 point guards, you got 4 wing players, you got 4 wings, Cam Reddish and Alex Burks. Those are your good wing players right there. And then you've got Nerlens Noel who can come in and give Mitchell Robinson a break, give Julius Randle a break, so you're back up big. Another move they could make if once doing this trade is to get another big. I'm personally a fan of running a 10-man rotation. And they got Taj Gibson, but I don't think he's that good. But they definitely got the pieces that make them better dramatically because they're missing a superstar player, and that's what Bradley Beal is. Bradley Beal is very good at basketball. He can make his own shot, and I don't think he's a terrible defender. And I think this makes them better at defense just by getting rid of Kemba and Evan Fournier. Like they needed scoring, and they went out to get scoring. But a lot of times you go out and get scoring, you lose defense. If you're not able to get guys who are really good at scoring and really good at defense often, almost never you're able to do something like that. So when you have to go out and get 2 guys that are good at scoring, you're really giving up a lot on defense. But by only bringing in 1 guy to improve your scoring, that's Bradley Beal. Only bringing in 1 guy, you're only being 1 guy less as good on defense. I guess that's how I'm going to say it. So instead of having 2 guys that are weaker defensively, I don't want to call them liabilities on defense, but they're weaker defensive players. And only having 1 of those guys definitely makes a difference. That's why I'm trading Kemba and Evan Fournier. If you want, you could keep Kemba and trade Alec Burks. That would make the contract situation work better, make the financial side of it better. If you take a look at it right now, this trade that I just said, it's the Knicks are gaining $2 million in cap. The Wizards are saving $2 million in cap. If you switch Kemba for Evan Fournier, it's like almost even in cap. It's like less than $1 million difference. There could be exceptions, like this trade would go through easily, no issues, and I think both teams would do it. If you're the Wizards, you get two young players. The only big issue is you have 40 years of Evan Fournier, but maybe he could be moved later on. Who knows? Because his contract, 17 million for 4 years, is a tough one. That's why I wasn't a fan of that deal. But from the Knicks aspect, you have 2 years of Bradley Beal, and if you want to resign him, go ahead. I would. I think he's a great player, but at 2 years, it's worth the trial. After that, you move R.J. Barrett to the 3. That's not gonna be, or run Beal there. It doesn't really matter. That's the Knicks side. It makes sense. I'm just throwing Anthony Gill in there just to make the players even instead of 4-1. It's 4-2, slightly better. And for the Wizards again, Kemba and Evan Fournier, those guys they'll be there. You got 2 years of Kemba, 4 years of Evan Fournier. Maybe you can get out of Fournier if you don't want him just because of his contract. But Quentin Grimes is good. He's $2.1 million contract for 4 years. He's a guy that you can see what he can turn out to be. He's a rookie this year, and Obi Toppin was a rookie last year. He's explosive. I know it kind of log jams a little bit for the power forwards. They got Denny Avdija and Rui Hachimura. Those are their young power forwards, but move one of them to small forward, something like that. You can make it work. The Wizards are in a situation where they don't really care too much who the player is. They're just trying to gain young talent. And if it had to come to giving Emmanuel Quickley, which is someone the Wizards would want, that's probably the most valuable piece the Knicks have. I think RJ is already out of the question for being untouchable. Emmanuel Quickley is probably the best piece of the players, of the rest of the guys available. I don't know if I'd give him up. I think he's very good. I'm kind of transitioning into Emmanuel Quickley with Bradley Beal. I think they play very similarly. You have Derrick Rose still running the starting at the 1, and then Emmanuel Quickley slowly takes over the Brad Beal role when his contract's up in 2 years because he'll be older. And if you re-sign him, that's great. And Emmanuel Quickley can slowly move in the starting spot at that point. But I just think he's their best piece, and having him get better with a guy that's similar to him is going to help them a lot. I think this can really turn the season around. It'll definitely turn around their media attention, turn it to more positive. I think the Knicks need to do it. Bradley Beal in New York would be amazing, and the Garden would be rocking. I want to see it happen.